Hey,
Hey,
thought you'd left already.
on my way out.
Hey, I'm sorry that I didn't find the time today to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's all right. Seems like you didn't really want to.
I didn't. Did you?
Yeah, actually. Look, I'm doing the work. I've been sober 186 days. I'm going to meetings. I'm taking the drug tests.
It's good.
And you're still riding me. What would have happened if I'd paralyzed that guy?
I don't know. What would have happened if I hadn't been here today? You'd still be questioning yourself. Now you know you can do it. You're welcome.
Also, that's how you teach now?
Sometimes.
You know what I saw in rehab? I saw a bunch of guys just like you. The only difference is they've accepted that they need help. I think you're afraid to admit that the mighty Dr. Rabinovich isn't perfect.
Oh, I never claimed to be perfect.
No, but you expect it of yourself, and it's not realistic, man. How can any of us live up to your standards if you can't even do it? You need help, Robbie. You need help.
Finished?
You don't gotta be honest with me, man. At least be honest with yourself.
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Today we are covering HBO Max's hit show, The Pitt's Season 2 finale, titled 9 p.m. Please note this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, just come back and check us out once you're finished. And before we get into the finale, we got some feedback on our episode 14 coverage. Mandy, you want to start us off?
Yep, via YouTube, our old friend Psychojax. Psychojax, you need your own theme song too. I just don't know what
I
to
got
do.
it. Remember from Married with Children, Psycho Dad?
No.
Psycho Dad, Psycho Dad. I forget what the full song is, but Psychojax, that's your song. Psychojax, Psychojax.
It works. I was going to go with something punk and just generic and just be like, Psychojax.
I love that you threw in an accent there.
Oh, it's kind of that punk cockney. Anyway, Psycho Dad, Psychojax, whatever.
Psycho Dad.
Here we are. Psychojax says, I've been thinking Moen was going to be the doctor we lost for 2 episodes now, but I didn't want to say it out loud.
I thought so too.
But I think her death might be what shocks Robbie out of his stupor. I really don't want that to be the case because media has such a horrible habit of fridging women, and a woman of color no less, so I would hate it if they went that way. Robbie finally working with Langdon was so great. I hope this means he's starting to forgive him for quote-unquote failing Langdon. But it also darkly confirms for Robbie that he isn't needed anymore. His student just performed a move even he had never seen, much less done. The Dr. Al scene at the end was so good. Her telling him that she has come to respect his opinion and talent, and him admitting that she impressed him too, was so vulnerable and raw.
It was.
Yeah, I think it's both. She showed him because her seizures increased, so she wants a second opinion, and she was trying to connect with him by showing that she is also fighting an uphill battle. Remember what she said earlier in the season, just because you know the system is broken doesn't mean you stop trying to fix it. And if that's not giving just keep swimming vibes, I don't know what does. The Whittaker-Langdon scene wasn't surprising. They've been sprinkling hints all season. In Frank's head, it's Dennis's second day. Remember when he tried to introduce him to Louis? And when he asked him if he had done multiple pretty simple procedures, one that he has definitely seen 10 months in. So when Dennis says he's not Gilligan to Frank Skipper, it definitely felt like he was tired of being belittled all day. I didn't see that. I'm going to believe you on that one because that really still just came out of left field to me. I guess I just totally missed all of that throughout the season.
I didn't see a lot of that either, but going back to season 1, first also Psychojax, it took me just a minute while Mandy was reading this. I was like, who is Frank? And then
Do you remember who Frank was?
Like,
Dennis,
that's Langdon's first name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see if you're going off a lot of the shit he said to him in season 1. I could see why Whittaker would be pissed, but I really just still feel like that was all just backing up Santos.
Yeah. I will give Langdon his props, though. He took what Whittaker said and not only heard him, but encouraged the growth. Yeah, I agree. I liked how that scene played out. Ultimately, I really hope Robbie gets snapped back from the brink. He's such a great mentor in season 1, and more than needing him as a doctor, they need him as a teacher. I need kind Robbie back. Thank you. Amen. Thank you, ladies, for letting me be part of your weekly breakdowns. It's been a blast. Well, Psycho Jax, we have loved having you here, and we cannot wait to keep hearing what you think about future episodes.
Yeah, we definitely want to hear your thoughts on the finale, what you thought about it.
Yeah.
At Linda Hey Girl Hey 1541 says, I think they will have to address Santos taking the scalpel. Do they? Question mark.
Yeah.
Sorry. There are so many things that they have to wrap up in the finale. It better be a 2-hour show. Curious what you think about that now.
Mm-hmm. At Ginger Morris 50/50, Ginger needs a theme song too.
I was thinking of the movie star.
The Professor and Mary. But they didn't even say Ginger in there.
No, they don't say it, but when we say Ginger, we could add the movie star because I feel like Ginger would be a badass movie star.
That works for me.
All right.
Ginger Morris 50/50 says all exclamation points, all caps, 3 exclamation points. Sticks! Hells yeah. Yeah, and then she's got like the rock and roll emoji fingers holding up. I love that little emoji. I've never seen that, but I knew exactly what it was.
I did too.
It's like a / an M and a backslash. It looks like a person with like their hands up in the air. Ginger, I agree. I love Styx. I'm a yacht rock fan in general, but I am a massive Styx fan. So yeah, I knew you like good music.
Kathy Astrom.
I think that's right.
Okay, Kathy Astrom, 1315. Issa Briones mentioned in an interview that she had to talk with the director of the episode where Mel gets knocked to the ground. Originally, Santos is supposed to be in the background of the scene, but she felt that if Trinity saw the guy hurt Mel, even accidentally, she would have immediately taken off after him and run him down. Facts.
Facts. Like that could have only played out one way if Trinity Santos was standing there.
Yeah, so she goes on to say that's how protective she is of those she cares for, and Mel is definitely one of those. The director took her out of the scene entirely. That's good to know. I didn't know that, and that was very smart of Issa to catch on to that. Yeah. She goes on to say they won't do a snowstorm. Don't forget that perhaps the most memorable episode after the pilot of ER's first season was Blizzard. That was a great episode. I don't know if Crichton's widow is still suing them for copyright infringement, but if she is, that would just add to her case. I don't know. I mean, it's the North. Snow happens, but...
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do a storm, but it's been confirmed that they are moving it into the winter months.
Yeah, and shout out to whoever, I forgot who it was that mentioned last week that they should do a cold weather season.
Yeah, one of the things John Wells said was people are turning their heaters on for the first time. So I think we can expect at least 1 or 2 more blown up people.
Oh, wonderful. Those are my faves.
Yeah. At Balboa Baby, 1964. Balboa Baby, are you Rocky? Is that what we should do when he... Adrian! Balboa Baby 1964 says, Santos likes to think Langdon went after her because she turned him in, but the fact is Langdon has never liked Santos or thought much of her abilities. Well before she turned him in for stealing, he gave her the nickname Bright Spark because she used nicknames to put other people down. That's true. I don't think these two liked each other from jump.
Yeah, and you called it. We talked a lot about it in season 1. They're so much alike.
Yeah.
It's like my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law who passed away would butt heads so bad. And I'm like, you guys, if you just realized you were the same person, you would get along a lot better.
Yeah, we got several of those in my family. But yeah, I do agree that that's what it is. Those two are just like 2 cats stuck in a bag from the moment they met each other.
Yeah. All right. You ready for this one?
Yep.
Meet Virginia. I can't wait to meet Virginia. That's Virginia's theme song. Y'all did not know when you started sitting in feedback that we would have created songs for you. I hope none of this gets us in copyright trouble. I guess if we're singing it, it's okay.
No one's going to admit it's their song.
Yeah. Virginia says, hi, Becky and Mandy. What an episode. Everything is boiling over. Duke gets Robbie to admit to his despair and thoughts of suicide. Robbie finally praises Langdon. Langdon pulls off an amazing maneuver that saves the man from being a quadriplegic. I hope there isn't an issue with his missed drugs test, especially since he just took an Advil ? Advil wouldn't show up in a drug screening.
I genuinely have no idea.
As of now, I'm glad there isn't an issue with him. Virginia goes on to say, I have never liked Santos because she's so awful to most people. And with her behavior these last few episodes, I just can't find a single positive thing to say about her. She's really funny. That's my favorite thing about Santos, but she was a lot to take in this season.
Yeah.
Mel King, Cassie, McKay, and Whitaker are wonderful as usual. Such suspense at the end as Al Hashimi finally lets Robbie know what is going on with her. I love how they were first able to show mutual respect for the first time. This is going to be an amazing finale. I don't look forward to this incredible season being over. Thanks for all your wonderful discussions. Thank you, Virginia, for your thoughts. I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm curious. Well, we did get your feedback for the finale, so we'll get more into Virginia's thoughts on that later.
Yeah, everybody knows I love me some Santos, and I could spend approximately 3 hours telling you why, but I also understand why she's not everybody's cup of tea, especially this season.
Yeah.
Via What's On Tonight's Facebook page, Ellen Margaret says, hey, what an incredible episode. The patient that was almost paralyzed and Langdon, quote, doctored the fuck up and did that intense procedure. Crazy good from start to finish. Yeah, it was. That was a really good episode.
Very. And Ginger, the movie star, goes on to say, she adds, they put a lot of focus on Whitaker's missing name badge, didn't they? Something bad is going down. My theories are either Baby Jane Doe's mom has changed her mind and come back to sneak her way, grabbing a doctor's ID so she can get into the room where the baby is, or, and in parentheses, I really hope this is not the case, Langdon stealing it to procure drugs because perhaps he's on a probation where he can't use his ID to do so. My sister has a darker theory regarding Ogilvy and access to the roof. I'm rambling on, but what a great penultimate episode. The moments between Duke and Robbie and between Al Hashimi and Robbie. Ugh, my heartstrings. So much more to say, but I'll leave it there. Looking forward to your last 2 episodes of the seasons, girls. Keep it up. And as always, love from the Emerald Isle. And Ginger also sent us a little voice note before we got into watching the finale. So it was just really kind and sweet, and I want to share it with you guys.
Well, girls, Ginger here. I'm getting really excited for the finale tonight. Also sad because I'll miss the show for the next 9 or 10 months until we get it back. I'm nervous for Mohan's exit. I really hope it's a positive one and not a negative one. So much to say about the show and about you girls and your podcast. And you've just done such a great job. And I'm going to miss hearing your voices every week. And really hope I get to properly chat with you sometime. It would be so much fun. But what a great show. What a great season. What a great season of the podcast for you two and the interviews, all the great stuff you've done. It's just been fantastic, and can't believe it's coming to an end. Looking forward to next year. Really hope we get some resolution with a few things. I hope we find out what happens to Baby Jane Doe. And yeah, just it's all been fantastic, and I just wanted to say hello and wish you well for watching the finale tonight, and also for the recording of the final episode of the podcast for the season. It's just been so great, and thank you girls so much. It's so wonderful listening to you, and I feel like we have a lot of thought streams in common, and it will be so great to chat with you sometime. And enjoy the finale.
I love that. Isn't that the sweetest?
Yes, Ginger. First of all, I've already mentioned how much I love Irish accents, and I need to know, you said your sister lives in Texas, so I need to know, like, did you spend a lot of time in the U.S. and then move to, you're Irish and you just maybe spent time here and then moved back home, or are you American and you are now living in Ireland? I need to know what the situation is there. And also, I think I speak for Becky when I say we will definitely have you host next season.
Oh, it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
We will figure out the logistics on the differences, the time difference, but you will for sure be with us for an episode.
Yeah, we just got to get the logistics worked out, but just consider it done, and I can't wait. That's going to be our first international crossover.
I know.
Crazy.
It is so crazy. So crazy. All right. Well, thank you all so much for writing in. I will say it one last time for this season. Hearing your all's takes on our conversations and how much you guys get out of those conversations means we're not just like we usually do, just blowing hot air.
Which we can do and will do.
Right.
But it's more fun to think there's actually people out there listening to our ramblings.
Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you all so much. So, all right. With all that said, let's jump into this very interesting finale. This episode was written by R. Scott Gimel and directed by Mr. John Wells.
Okay, the synopsis for this episode. Al-Hashemi reveals to Robbie her history of seizure disorder. Should she have, though? Robbie is apt to treat a woman suffering from severe preeclampsia and HELP syndrome after attempting a free birth. A term that I wish to God I still didn't know. Javadi considers a career in emergency psychiatry, while Mohan remains uncertain about her future. Dana tries to find someone to foster baby Jane Doe. Many of the staff convene on the roof to watch the fireworks. Robbie shares a vulnerable moment with baby Jane, while Santos and King enjoy a night on the town.
All right, let's just dive right into this sucker. I have a lot to say. Mandy does not. I do.
I do. Of course, no one out there has listened to me ramble this long and believes I don't have a shit ton to say. I don't have a lot of notes, and honestly, I don't know, man. I guess I'm more interested in hearing your thoughts because maybe I'll see things from a different perspective after we hash all of this out. But I got to tell you right up front, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. There were things I loved, but there were things I really hope they do differently next season. I'll just say that.
Yes. The first watch, when I was done, I was pissed. I was like, that was the penultimate episode. That was not a season finale. But then I put on this is not Grey's Anatomy, ER. This is real world-esque. So I watched it through that lens of this isn't a season finale of a television show. This is just the end of a day for healthcare professionals. And I liked it a lot more. It wasn't my favorite for a season finale, but I really appreciated the episode and how it kind of laid some good groundwork for season 3. So yeah, my first watch, I was pissed.
I very similar trajectory. I didn't hate it. And there are arguments that I can make in my head for why it was always going to play out this way. I think we even covered last episode that I had the sneaking suspicion that quite a bit of this was just going to be left up in the air. And quite a bit of it should have been left up in the air. My issue is, fundamentally, I think that there was so much of this season that was taken up by Robbie's mental health crisis that it robbed a lot of the other characters from oxygen and their storylines from having as much impact. And then while I also agree, that like at the end of the day, this is not Grey's Anatomy. One of the things that's awesome about it is that it is just a day in the life of these people. And if I sat and binged all 15 episodes at once, I may even feel differently about it, but that's not how this plays out. It is episodic. And so I'm not articulate enough in the language of storytelling to really explain completely why I'm a bit disappointed, except to just say, I feel like at the end of the day, if there was going to be so much of this 15 story arc taken up with Robbie's storyline, then the ending I just find dissatisfactory.
I understand that. I get what you're saying. There were quite a few conversations. Well, there were 2 conversations that Robbie had with 2 different people in this episode. And I felt like it was we were hearing the same things that we heard most of the season. And while those conversations were impactful, it was just kind of like
redundant.
Yes. And you're right. It did rob us of I would have rather have seen 2 conversations with Robbie. But anyway, let's get into it and then we'll kind of break it down. But I do agree with you. It wasn't as satisfying as I thought it should be, given how much time was devoted to his mental health. But I'm also trying to give the benefit of the doubt because these writers do a great job. that they did give us a little bit of closure with some of the characters. We did get to see some outside perspectives.
There were moments I loved.
It still, I don't think, was what I was expecting from the season finale, but after really thinking about it and breaking it down, I'm not as disappointed as I was after the first watch. So let's start with Robbie and Dr. Al. I just want to give a shout out, and forgive me if I butchered this name, but I believe it's Sapita Moafi is how you pronounce it. Just brilliant acting throughout this entire season, but especially in these last 2 episodes. And I also want to give a credit to makeup for all of these exhausted people by the end of the shift. They acted the part of exhausting, but makeup did a great job without it looking fake, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely look like they just finished a 15-hour shift. But
the gamut of emotions that she went through starting at the end of last week's episode and into the finale, it's like she was going through embarrassment, humility, fear. Times it seemed like she was pleading, like she was trying to convince herself as much as she was trying to convince Robbie. And then that vulnerability and that just big emotional breakdown in the car, it just, hats off to her for some phenomenal acting this entire season. She really is a standout character.
She was wonderful. I loved Dr. Al as a character. Did not understand this choice. Absolutely did not understand, logically speaking, what in her experience in this shift would have made her think that being vulnerable with Robbie about her seizure condition was a good idea. This was a moment that just did not ring true to me. It did not seem like something that she would have shared with him, given their relationship throughout the vast majority of this shift. And especially considering that she's already clocked that he's like 15 seconds from a breakdown himself. So I did not love this choice. I loved her acting. I loved how she got to really lean into this scene and show some emotional range. Like, she killed it. Sapita Moafi was amazing. It's just that this is one of those places where I feel like if this confession had come in episode 7, that would have made way more sense. Dropping it in right here at the end of episode 15 just reinforced to me where this was yet another character that did not get enough oxygen this season because there was so much room being taken up in Robbie's anticlimactic breakdown.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but this made more sense to me because, one, this show is great at educating us on issues that people face that isn't commonly known. So we learned a lot about what she's been dealing with. They gave us closure on finally understanding. And you were right, it was strictly neurological. It's not like I thought it was. But they gave us a lot more into her background, understanding why the seizures happen, what they are, and then going through the treatments. I was like, it made me want to embrace her further as a character that I can empathize with or character that I can love, because it's like, holy shit, you are also a doctor or medical professional dealing with a health issue that you don't have any control of, you didn't ask for. You know what I mean? And she's struggling. And you got me thinking last week after you were saying that she was like trying to show Robbie, we all have our issues. I think that was her intent, but it also makes sense to me because she has to disclose this. Like when she snapped at Robbie saying at the end of their final conversation where he's like, you have to disclose this, or why didn't you, whatever. And she throws back at him, well, you kept Langdon stealing drugs from the fucking department quiet. I think it was a chance for her to champion for herself and her ability. But I understand that Robbie is looking at this from a legal standpoint because he has to, because this is his ED. And this is something that she does have to disclose. Do I think it's another case of Robbie's delivery was shit. And I don't know. I wonder if she'll be back next season to give us an answer to how all of this works out for her. But I get that it didn't that you didn't feel like it paid off, but I liked this part because I think those two going toe to toe was almost like therapy for both of them.
Yeah, I just think that it would have made more sense if this revelation had come halfway through the season. Like, it would have made sense to me as well if, like I mentioned last episode, it was more along the lines of this is something that is already known about me. It is a situation that I deal with. I understand what it's like to have health issues, or especially having to do with cognitive issues, and still be a doctor. That storyline would have made sense to me. This storyline would have made sense to me, and I appreciate like all of the same things that you did about it, except that it didn't make sense to do it right now. To me, it made no
I get
sense to
that.
wait until the last episode, and it made no sense to disclose it the way she did. And again, it just was one of many moments throughout this episode where I just was reinforced to me how disappointed I am that so much of this season was taken up with Robbie's baggage when we could have been talking about more complex storylines for the rest of the cast, including Dr. Al Hashemi.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I felt like it didn't have a happy ending. It didn't have a really end resolve, but I really did like those two going toe to toe.
That part I did like. I hope she's back, and I hope that this is a continuation next season. I would like to see a lot more of Dr. Al Hashemi.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think they owe it to us to give us
Yes.
something on that. So hopefully we'll get there. All right. Next up, Robbie and Duke. Duke is on his way out. I loved his line, "You keep me running, I'll keep her running," talking about his motorcycle. And Duke still trying, promises, he'll come back and get all the tests and stuff done if Robbie promises to come back and let him ride Bonnie. And again, like he's done through this most of the season, when anybody gets serious, he tries to deflect with a joke. But I appreciate that Duke didn't bite. He shut it down. He's serious. A lot of Robbie's interactions this episode, I feel like we started to see a shift from him hoping that these people were going to be okay without him, to seeing how important he is to these people and how much they genuinely care for him and want him to be around. And it slowly, each conversation subconsciously seeped into where he started the process of losing the suicidal ideation of this trip.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like that was still really ambiguous at the end.
I don't. I feel like we got. Oh, okay, we'll get to it when we get there. But I see that differently, and I'm curious to hear why you think that. All right, next up, Robbie and Mohan. So Robbie catches Mohan outside, and Robbie starts launching into a speech about life being challenging and nothing going like it's expected. And she asks if this was true or if he just made it up to try to get her thinking. We get some backstory, maybe, that he had hoped that his life would be very different, that he'd be married with 2 kids in college and have a pond. I think he really did want the pond.
Yeah.
I could see Robbie with his kids fishing in a pond, and I was like, oh. But he turns it around on her, and she admits that she is having trouble with her mom. She didn't let anything work out, and she apologizes for letting her mom interfere with her work, which kind of annoyed me because I don't feel like she owed him any other apologies other than their conversation they already had. But I did think it was really cool when she ends her conversation with him telling him to be careful and how much they do need him here. And I wrote in my notes, I feel like that was another low watt light bulb moment for Robbie, where even though he's treated a lot of these people like shit and not been very kind and respectful to them, but they still are showing him shit happens between close relationships. But at the end of the day, we're all still here for each other.
Yeah, I did think that was very kind of her. I liked actually her attitude at the beginning where he was trying to pep talk her and she was like, "No, dog, you've been an asshole to me. I'll shift.
Yeah.
I don't need your pep talk now." But she did bend a bit there, and it was nice of her to give Robbie that validation. But this was another situation where I feel like I wish that we had had more explanation of what was going on with Mohan before she is now just gone now. she's not even going to be here next season. And we really barely, I mean, all we knew about her all season was her mom was getting on her nerves for calling her.
Yeah. I'll get more into that in final thoughts. I can see where our differences of opinion are happening. I like it. This was another scene I felt good closure with. And when we get into show notes and news, there's some info on what we're going to learn in season 3, and Mohan is a part of it. So I'll save that for that. All right, let's move on to Robbie and Abbott. You made me laugh when Abbott calls Robbie's thing a spirit quest, and I like that the continuity this whole season, people have had different names for what Robbie's doing, be it a midlife crisis, and Robbie's constantly trying to defend what he's doing. I appreciate that Abbott is always blunt with Robbie, and kudos to the director for catching Dana eye hustling that conversation in the background.
Yeah, that was funny.
But, he calls Robbie out because Robbie starts making flippant remarks about death. And it was funny, but real at the same time when Abbott says, when you say things like that, it makes people worry about you and makes me think I should be worried about you. And I don't like to worry about things. That was a Mandy Walker line right there.
Yes. Abbott was maybe one of my favorite parts of this whole episode. I liked seeing that when he said he had done the work, like that was clear in his character throughout the season. And like he goes, it's a work in progress because he's still like out there working for the SWAT team getting shot at. So he's clearly not completely healed, but I like that he
says to him when they get to the end of the after the baby comes, and like you say, and he's telling him, you need to get some help. You need this place as much as it needs you. And which is true. And then Robbie asks, am I fucked up? And I was like, 100%.
That was me and you. Like immediately, that was the one thought I had in that scene was, man, this is so me and Becky holding each other up when the dumpster fire of 2026 is raging on. We're just one week to the next. One of us has got to be morally okay or mentally okay because the other one's going to need us.
Yeah. Oh God, we are Abbott and Robbie.
Yes.
I don't want to sit here and try to figure out which one of us is who, though.
I think that changes from day to day. And honestly, I think that's true with Robbie and Abbott too. So
that's fair. Since we're on it, let's finish their final chat before we get into free birth. Free birth! So, Abbott takes one more shot at Robbie before he leaves, and he, the Thelma and Louise comment, Robbie keeps trying to deflect. And like you said, Abbott says that he's dealt with his shit, and I put parentheses. I would say more maybe still dealing with his demons.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, they sneak in some of Abbott's solid backstory, and he breaks down for Robbie. He's like, I didn't kill myself after all the bad shit I've seen. Death is going to come for us, and we know it. They see it, but they can't succumb to it. But what I thought was really one of the most rewarding moments in Robbie's journey through this episode was when he admits to Abbott that not just loved one's death, but every death he sees, he believes is sucking out part of his soul, which makes sense as to why we finally see Robbie on this path, that he's lost respite in the place he loves because that place isn't giving him life like it used to. It's taking it away. And I love that we got that.
He's lost his balance.
That's a good way to put that.
Yeah. Robbie has lost his balance and his perspective that he needs that place and that place needs him, but there is a yin and yang to it, and he needs to get his yin yanged.
Yin yang.
Yeah. Or yang is yin. I don't know which one, but he needs some balance.
For sure. I'm a Libra. I am the scales. I can help Dr. Robbie find his balance.
I am a skeptic, so I don't believe any of that shit, but he definitely needs to do something.
This whole wild birth, free birth lady arrives.
Girl.
And I thought of you. I wanted to text you, but I was like, nope, we cannot discuss this episode. I've never birthed a child, but I've seen births. I've heard your stories. I've heard lots of stories from close friends at how intense birth can be. And I've seen them happen. I, not even having done it, cannot imagine having no one near you, no drugs, wanting to refuse all the help despite being told that she and her baby could die. I don't want to slam anyone who feels like this is the path they want to take if they have children, but I don't get it. Help me understand it, because I do not get it.
Well, I'm going to slam them. I'm going to slam them right now. Not getting medical care while you are pregnant, if it's available to you, is stupid. It's stupid, stupid, stupid. And look, I say this. Our good friend Sam is at the end of her pregnancy, and I'm sure she'd be the first one to say thank God for that, because it's hard. It's hard on your body. It is hard emotionally. It's hard physically. Every bit of it is tough. Even if you have a great pregnancy, it's tough. And the reality is that there are some people that have medical trauma because of the way that they've been treated by the medical system. And there is misogyny rampant in OBGYN, as bringing up Sam, she has recently been experiencing. There are a lot of times that I've experienced with both of my pregnancies where I had a male doctor and he wasn't listening to me. He wasn't taking my feelings and needs into consideration at all. He would completely ignore requests that I had, things that I was trying to tell him that were going on with my own body. There was one time early in my second pregnancy where I called freaking out because I was spotting, and the doctor on call that weekend, who was my doctor's partner, who was just as bad, just got on the phone and said, well, you're either miscarrying or you're not. Nothing I can do about it.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was bad. Test results they didn't give me. It's a problem. And I'm a whitey McWhite lady with great health care in America, which puts me in the upper echelon of how you're going to be treated by the medical complex. And I'm saying all that to say that I can understand that there are women out there that have very valid reasons to be skeptical and leery of OBGYNs in general. That being said, it is so beyond irresponsible to make a choice that you are just not going to get any health care at all while you are carrying a baby for 40 weeks. Not just for you, but for the child. And I think that this is exactly why, and this is also why I could never be a doctor, because just like the turmeric lady, like I just don't understand people who are so willing to believe science when it allows you to carry around a incredibly complex entertainment system in your pocket that'll keep you, laughing, watching cat videos and help you find recipes and whatnot, but you don't believe in doctors when they go to school for 12 years to learn how to save your life. Like, that just makes no sense to me.
I agree with you. I don't understand it at all. And then I loved Robbie's. Like, why did you come here?
Yeah.
If you don't want us to do anything, why are you here?
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly it. It's kind of like, there's no atheists in foxholes. At the end of the day, whenever, and I guarantee, and what really pissed me off, and it's all made up, none of this exists in the real world, but I had the thought that that is exactly the kind of person that's going to end up suing them because they ended up
saving her
doing
baby.
A lateral incision or something. Yeah, I mean, just like the one that is suing the hospital that Mel's having to give the deposition for, where she probably saved their kid's life, but they're suing her. I do not understand those people, and they are dragging us backwards. This anti-science bullshit has got to stop. You can be an informed consumer of your own healthcare without being so incredibly asinine that you genuinely believe that the healthcare system in this country is completely, doctors and all of them are all just out to get you. I will never understand that.
Yeah. What I found most interesting about these scenes, besides that badass looking C-section, that was cool. I got to see a C-section.
I didn't even see my own C-section. Like, I had a C-section with both of mine. The first one was not an emergency. Well, the first one it wasn't an emergency, but it was getting to the point where it was going to be. I was getting into preeclampsia, et cetera. But I didn't have to be cut open from stem to sternum like that. And I still didn't want to see it. So this is the first C-section I've actually ever watched.
Yeah, it's the one I watched when I was in high school. I took a health occupations course and got my certified nursing assistant license because I was going to follow in my mom's footsteps and be a nurse, until I realized while I can handle the visuals of all kinds of bodily fluids and things, I can't handle smell. So I was like, not going to be the career path for me. But I got to see a C-section like you had, like where they did the smaller incision horizontally. And I have to say, it was fascinating. to see and how fast this doctor, I won't get
It happens
graphic, but it's
quickly.
cool. Yeah, it's a really, really neat thing. But yeah, that going from sternum to pube bone was like, holy shit.
Yeah, my second one, I know a lot of people out there that decided to go with a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean, but the way that my plumbing was set up, this is one of the things that was frustrating to me about having male providers, is that someone should have told me a long time ago I probably was never going to be able to have vaginal birth. That probably should have been something that was caught before I had tried to have my first baby. But the second one, it was a selective seat. It was just completely scheduled. And I always joke that it was like going through the drive-through. It literally was
Yeah.
like night and day compared to my first child, like where I was laboring for 12 hours before they made that decision. I went in at 5 o'clock in the morning and had a baby in my arms at 9:30. And my healing and everything was actually pretty easy out there.
They've come a long way with it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But besides the badass looking C-section, what I really liked about these scenes was Robbie's hesitancy to get fully involved in the case. Like, he kept his distance just a little bit. He would either be lurking outside of the door, like he wants to go in, but he just can't. And it just made me think that he's like, this woman is at risk of dying. This baby is at risk of dying. We know how he has a love for children. And I think he just could not go in there. He was afraid to go in there because if something else bad happened, which, echoes later with this conversation. And I got this on second watch, not on first watch, that if that baby and that mom die, that's just more of him that's going to be defeated. But I appreciate that his instincts kicked in and he did jump in and help save that mom and baby. That's another what I'm calling low watt light bulb moment, that I feel like he was happy that he helped these people. He was happy that it was a good outcome. And just a small little light, like, okay, and Abbott echoes it. There are very beautiful things that happen in this emergency department along with the shit. And he just looked like just a little bit lighter after that moment.
I agree. I think that you were spot on when you said that he was very reluctant to jump in because it felt like maybe it was just going to be the one thing that if it went badly was just going to what pushed him over. But making that choice and taking a risk, he got just that little hit of dopamine that sometimes the ER is the scene of miracles and not always tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. That was well written, well acted, and well directed.
Yeah, that definitely was my favorite part of the episode, that storyline, even though it infuriated me.
Yes. I did appreciate the hug and the comeback to us. I just wrote here, that is a real friendship, and I love it. Those two together make sense every time they're on screen, be it a light moment or a serious moment. And I just loved it.
Yeah.
All right, next up, the moment I was waiting for. I got several wishes granted in this episode, and this is one of them. So we'll move on to Robbie and Langdon. And a shout out to Mandy. She posted her Trinity Santos t-shirt on our What's On Tonight page. And she did also get me one that's got Langdon's face all over it. And I haven't had time to get it from her yet, but thank you, Mandy. I can't wait to wear my shirt. We'll have them on for the special episode coming up soon. But my first note here is just Langdon pees. I just thought it was funny. Dude staring at him, and Langdon looks over like, come here often. And I'm glad they showed that side of what it's like for people in recovery who have to go through things like that it's a humbling experience in addition to everything else that they're doing. I'm glad they showed that point of view.
Yeah. Can you imagine what a sucky job that guy has?
Oh, and his face. He's like, dude, you think you're the first asshole?
Right. He's like, you're like the 17th penis I've seen today.
Right. Yeah. I just want to say, man, when it comes to urination in cups or in public or whatever, be grateful for how easy it is for you. I flashed back to earlier this month when I had to go in for my blood work and stuff, and how hard it is for a woman to catch her pee in a cup without wearing most of it, or it's hard. So appreciate the gift that you have by being able to pee in cups and pee pretty much wherever you want to pretty easily.
Yes, that specifically is the one advantage that men have in this world. Just the
Right.
one.
I just got what you want. Oh my God, Mandy Walker, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, poor man.
They've had it really rough.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. That's hilarious. All right, my ears perked up when Robbie was telling Dana that he needed to speak to Langdon when he's listing off the things he still needs to do before he leaves. And she's like, well, he's gone. And we see Langdon making his way onto the surgical recovery floor. And I'm not going to lie, they got me just for a second because I have been he didn't steal the ID. He's not going to relapse right now. But I think they wanted us to think that he was going to get up there, pull out Whitaker's card and do something nefarious. But he just wanted to check on Debbie Cohen, which I think was great. I've seen chatter online that a lot of people don't like that he went up there, like it didn't make sense. But I think it makes perfect sense. He's carrying guilt because he didn't see it the first time he saw her. And when he asked the question if it was below the knee or above the knee, and it's confirmed that it was above the knee, you could tell that kind of hit him a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it made total sense.
I agree. But Robbie does catch him on his way out, and I appreciate Langdon not running over like a puppy dog. Like, yes, boss. Like, he was like, no, I'm done. But Robbie is quick to apologize to him that he didn't find time to talk to him during the shift, which I think he owed Langdon that. And I appreciated Langdon being honest that he's pretty sure Robbie didn't want to talk to him, which Robbie agrees. And kudos to Robbie for being honest back that he didn't want to. And I was expecting Langdon to apologize to him again, but nope, he did not. And we got one of my wishes is that Langdon gives it back to Robbie. So Langdon's been sober for 186 days. So that means he's not been sober the entire time he was going through the rehab process. When there's a drug, is it Suboxone that I think they give? Do you think he was on that for a while, like to wean off of the drugs, which is why, or do you think he relapsed at some point during that time?
I think he relapsed, but that's a good catch. I didn't even catch that he had only been sober for 186 days and that's much less than 10 months.
Can you believe I did math?
No, I can't believe that either one of us would voluntarily subject themselves to something like that.
Well, I was curious. I was just curious that, okay, if he's been sober 186 days, that's not
a little over 6 months.
And he's been in there for 10 months or been in the program for 10 months that we're supposed to believe, depending on how quickly he went in after the season ended.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to say maybe that was just like something they missed, but they don't miss things here. So I think that's part of his journey. I mean, as I understand it, it's very, very, very common to have relapse or a step back when you're in recovery. It could be the Suboxone, though. I really don't know. That's interesting, and maybe we'll find out more about that in the future.
I'm curious. My brother was on that forever.
Well, we had a lady that I used to work with at O'Charlie's that was on, I don't know if it was Suboxone or methadone, but she was on it for years. Every morning she would have to go
and they'll go.
Yeah.
It's I've always found it interesting using an addictive drug to get off of an addictive drug.
Maybe it's just the way that it can be regulated. I don't know. But that is an interesting question. I do wonder if it's because of the Suboxone or if we're going to find out that he had struggles early on. Either way, that was an interesting catch.
Oh, thank you. I was surprised at myself. I was like, wait, am I doing math willingly without tears? Don't ask me how long it took me to do the math to get that answer, but so of course Langdon is telling Robbie what's up, and Robbie turns around. He's not wrong that he helped pick up Langdon's confidence, but I think he was an asshole. He's just doing his typical deflection. But I cheered when Langdon laid it out for Robbie. Robbie holds himself to such a high standard that he can't even meet himself. So how does he expect the staff to live up to his standards when he can't?
Yeah.
And I loved the "you need help, Robbie," and Robbie's, scoff about it. And then he's like, look, you don't have to be honest with me, but at least be honest with yourself. And I just wrote stethoscope drop, which is my stethoscopes moment. I'll go ahead and air that now. And let me tell you, also Patrick Ball could wear a pair of jeans and a t-shirt.
He looks like my Uncle Randy.
And you wonder why I find Patrick Ball attractive? Because you know I love Uncle Randy.
Uncle Randy is a very handsome man. That's just all I see when I see him is Randy circa 1988 because they have the same haircut, which is another choice. I'm not sure what's going on there, but whatever.
Is that all you have to say about this glorious moment between the two of them? Is that he looks like Uncle Randy?
No, I actually want to say that you were very, very right, though. You've been calling all season that you really hope that it was Langdon that lays into him at some point. Not that a lot of people didn't, but Langdon earned that moment.
He did. And it was very rewarding to see it all play out. And then he just walks off into the sunset. So,
yeah.
We're going into our final main moment of the season before we get into chart notes. In my opinion, who knew Baby Jane Doe is going to be the one that sets Robbie on a positive path? First up, kudos to us learning about kinship adoption. I knew that there was a process where family or relatives or close family could adopt kids, but I didn't know there was this term for it. And if it's okay, I'll just nerd out for just a second because I thought it was interesting. So kinship adoption is a legal process where relatives or close family adopt. This keeps children within their family, reduces trauma, and is often faster than traditional adoption. It requires terminating parental rights, often with legal support. Doctors and nurses can adopt through kinship, particularly when they have an emotionally significant bond with the patient, which made me laugh at Dana trying to get Mohan, McKay, and Santos to take that baby. She's like, anybody take that baby. So I just thought that was neat.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing. Like a lot of times I've read those stories about, usually it's like paramedics or nurses in the NICU who have abandoned infants and things like that. But I didn't know it was called kinship adoption.
I didn't know it had a like specific
name
either. So I was curious to Google
pretty
that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dana and Robbie seem to be, it's another moment that made me stop and think, okay, Robbie's calming down because he's back to, he's not snapping with Dana. They're making the joke. Like he says he's going to go get some fresh air. And she's like, get some for me. And he's like, your lungs wouldn't know what to do with it. And screw you. And he's like, in front of the baby. Nice.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then we get to the very, very sweet moment. So you can give me Dr. Robbie comforting adorable babies all day long. I feel like we got a lot of clarity in this room. And I do think it was baby Jane Doe who starts our Robbie officially on a healing path. Like when he was talking to the baby and mentions, do you need to be swaddled? And says, I wish someone could swaddle me. And I can't tell you how much I would love that myself. And I think it was well written that all of this happened in the same room that's been like Robbie's trauma room since we've met him. So we know it's where Dr. Adamson passed during the COVID crisis. We saw him have his emotional breakdown there last year. And so I liked that in that moment, it's like he started his healing process. I don't think he's fully healed, but I think the series of conversations that he had throughout the last 2 episodes and then this time with baby Jane Doe, I just feel like he's let go of the suicidal ideation. I think he's still going to take this trip, but I think instead of looking at it as the end of his journey, he's going to see it as a path to healing. That's what I got. What do you think?
This is, we're just going to be on completely different opposite sides of this scene. This scene, to me, on the one hand, I kind of see what the metaphor of the baby all season was essentially about, is, you know, the inner baby of Robbie, the part of Robbie that is the abandoned child, and, you know, the kind of like emotional football that they're carrying throughout this entire season while they're having all of these crises blow up in their face over and over again. We do find out more about Robbie, you know, when he tells the baby that he was an abandoned child. I want to point out that that was a terrible swaddler. That was not swaddling. That was wrapping a baby or a blanket around a baby. But I digress. That scene was so on the nose. Like, that is all. If the whole point of this is it's all supposed to be a fairly realistic 1 day journey of an ER department, that just seemed very melodramatic. Just him talking to the baby and talking about being an abandoned child and all of that. It just seemed like a clunky melodrama moment for a show that is supposed to be more grounded in reality for me.
That's how I felt about Park the Shark.
Yeah. So my whole problem with this episode isn't the episode itself. Again, if this episode had been like episode 8 of this season, I would have loved it. I would have loved everything probably about it. Well, most things, because I still don't think it makes any sense that Al Hashimi would be that vulnerable with Robbie about something that was not resolved when she just met him this morning and everything about him says that he's about 15 seconds from completely going off his rocker. But the problem that I have with this season is that a large portion of last season was about Robbie's journey through mental illness. And a large portion of this season, even more of this season, was about Robbie's journey with mental illness. And it took away from a lot of other really stellar character arcs that were going on. We didn't get enough of anyone else because we were so heavily involved in this arc. So I was just left disappointed that we didn't see more Mohan, that we didn't see more McKay. McKay was just completely wasted this season. King didn't have nearly enough to do. I hope next season we're going to get a lot less Robbie's depression issues and more of how things are going with the rest of the staff. Princess was gone with like 3 episodes ago. There's just a lot of great characters in this show, and I wish we'd gotten more of them and less of Robbie. But also, though, before we move past this, I do agree with you that it does look like that there are some little glimmers in this finale that Robbie is hopefully going to turn a corner. But I thought that last season too. And then we spent this whole season on a journey with Robbie and his depression and motorcycles. So I really don't know where they're going with it. I felt like they were kind of still deliberately leaving it ambiguous. I think that they were trying to show that to a certain degree it is getting into him. He's telling himself you have more people to love and to meet. But I also wasn't sure that Robbie believed that deep down from the way that they left it.
Yeah, that's why I say that time, that moment, the buildup, he isn't driving off on his motorcycle healed. But I think the point of that was to show he's been afraid of this entire season is facing the fact that what he loves, what is his life, is no longer good for him and that it's killing him. And the end result was throughout this season with all of these interactions was him avoiding the root of the issue. And yes, it took up a lot of story and some of it was redundant. I think they could have given 15 more minutes an episode to another character and still have been as successful pulling off this ending that they did with Robbie. I do agree with you on that. But I'm not mad about how it plays out because it all makes sense that this was his journey to the start of healing, that he's not going to write off fixed, but whatever's going to happen during this 3 months that he's gone and however long before he starts back at the ED, he's going to be he is officially going to be in a better headspace because he's finally accepted, yeah, shit sucks. Yeah, I've got work to do, but I no longer want to bail on my life or those that I love. I'm going to go sit in my own shit and start the healing process. And I think that this was the stepping stone.
Yeah, and that's just the difference is that I don't think that it was at all clear that that's for sure going to happen. Maybe, but again, that was kind of where I thought we were going with the end of last season. And so when we just went through all this, and I still feel like it was fairly ambiguous at the end. So it's possible that's the way it's going to go, but I don't feel like that. I'm not 100% sure that that's what we're doing. I hope so, because I would really like next season to be less about Robbie's internal struggles and more about the rest of the crew.
Yeah. And we'll get into it more when we get into what we know about season 3, but I think we're going to get that. All right. Anything else on Robbie and his 14th tour of the season?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move into chart notes. I want to talk about the night crawlers. Holy shit, that is funny.
That was very
we deal
funny.
with the weirdest and the wildest because we are the weirdest and the wildest of them all. And I just wrote that tracks with this crew. But it made me laugh because for those that don't know, my oldest son joined the Army. He's going on to in the medical field to be a psychiatrist for veterans, which he graduated from boot camp this past week. And we went down to see graduation, and I could not stop laughing at Abbott's leadership style because the whole thing they did was so military.
Yeah.
But I like his leadership. I think the way he leads fits well with his military background, and it's really adorable. This team is a good team. I like Nazali. I think she's really good at taking on what she's being taught. I think Abbott and Cruz are really good teachers. And I do want to give a shout out to Luke Tenney. It did not dawn on me until this finale that Luke Tenney is also a main character in Shrinking, which I've been watching on Apple TV. And I don't know if you noticed, he's the new teacher on Abbott Elementary that Jacob thought was gay.
Who's Luke Tenney? Oh,
Dr. Cruz.
Dr. Cruz. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quit watching Abbott this week. I quit watching Abbott this season too.
Why?
Have you seen the last episode?
Yeah.
They broke up, Janine and Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not watching it anymore. I'm sick of that crap.
I'm okay with it because it's given so much good Jacob storyline. Jacob's my favorite. I've decided
I do like
Jacob is my favorite character.
Well, Jacob is me, so that makes sense that you would love him.
He is nerdy like you, but emotionally, you are way in a better place than Jacob is.
Poor Jacob. And
then my last note here is laugh my ass off at Ellis and Shin having to do Weekend at Bernie's, and that conversation with Robbie and Dana when they're like, he reported with hemorrhoids and constipation, and Robbie says no shit, and Dana's like, hence the constipation.
Yeah, I felt bad for that guy though. That's so sad. That dude just died out in the waiting room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie though, if you're gonna fall out having to wait for medical attention, better to be in the hospital so they can just go ahead and roll you right on down to the morgue. I mean,
it reminds me of my friend Gina, who's a doctor or a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and she won't watch the Pitt because she's real neurodivergent in the sense that accuracy is really, really super hyper important to her, and she can't get past the things that aren't completely correct. But one of the things that she said drives her the most crazy is the moments of silence for Louis and the other patient that passed up there in season 1, because she said that's just not what happens. They just turn you, burn you, get you out of there and get somebody else in the bed. There's no pausing. There's no sentimentality. There's no prayers, none of that stuff, which really bummed me out.
I choose to believe that it may not be common in all hospitals, but I believe there are people. I would be one of those people who would stop and say a prayer and have a moment with whoever wanted to join me.
I like to think I would too, but I don't know because what I don't know from medicine. I mean, look, we've established over this season, especially with all of these dipshits that come into the medical emergency room with problems they've created themselves. No one wants me as their doctor because I would totally be the one being like, you did this to yourself.
True story.
I saw online, though, there was a meme that said something like, this season accomplished something I never thought they would, which was to make Dr. Shin slightly stressed out, which this episode, that was the first time you've actually seen Dr. Shin look like he, for just a moment, might have been a little bit stressed.
Yeah, it was great comedy gold between the two of them, though. First, when they're all debating when the guy actually died.
And whose fault it is.
Putting it on night shift. And then the guy next to the gentleman who passed, like, is this dude dead? And they both at the same time are like, nope.
I love Dr. Ellis. She cracks me up.
Yeah. And Shin saying he suffered from hyponarcolism, and it's not a joke. And Ellis is like, man.
Yeah. I saw some people that were mad about that scene because they said, you can't have it both ways. On the one hand, you're showing these moments where it's all about the dignity of life and how much they care about everybody's passing. And then they're making a joke of the dead guy in the lobby. I didn't really have a problem with it because, quite honestly, I do think that that's probably more likely to happen than the quiet, dignified mourning scenes.
Yeah. I can see why somebody would think that it was disrespectful, but this show, we need moments of levity.
At a certain point, you got to have a sense of humor.
I think this was a good one.
That was pretty funny.
All right, next up, Javadi and Whitaker. Javadi is also killing it with delivering the exhausted look. I thought it was a great choice to have Whitaker be the one to have this conversation with Javadi. Whitaker's got that big heart, and I could see him actually wanting to check on Javadi and see if she's doing okay. But what I loved the most about this girl is not officially 21 yet, but she sees what is happening in this ED. She's seeing what it's doing to the people. She talks about Langdon's addiction, and Whitaker correcting her with the correct terminology for an addict. McKay's house arrest. Dana is a ticking time bomb, and I put in parentheses facts. And her comment about Santos being the meanest person you're ever going to meet. I thought it was cute that Whitaker was immediately going to jump in and try to defend Santos. But Javadi just keeps going on about how, Mel's issues, Samira has no life, Robbie's PTSD, or something way fucking worse. And how all of this has shown her the importance of mental health. And I put again in parentheses, go girl, for the patients and the staff. And Whitaker encourages her to focus on mental health. And she's like, it's like a light bulb went off in her head that this is a good path for her. And I think it is a good path for her. She's so young to see the mental anguish that this is putting on people, that these grown-ass people who are in the thick of it can't see what's going on with them. I think she'd be a great advocate.
Yeah, I like to see the representation there. I do say, though, that Javadi is still so young. And so what I love about her is she's flawed. It'll be interesting to see if she stays with the show and they explore that choice, how Javadi grows, because she's still very judgmental and she's still very young and sheltered. So I'm curious to see how her character is going to evolve over the next few seasons. And I hope we get to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I hope so too. There was a still, I thought I saw a photo of a still photo of her talking to her parents for the stills they put out for the final episode, but I did not see that in the show. So I think that was a scene and her parents were probably pissed. But
well, her mother's not going to be happy.
No, I guess we won't know more about that until next season if she's back.
It'll be interesting to explore that, though. I hope that they do go that route because mental health is such a huge part of the emergency room that I think that could lead to some really interesting storylines.
For sure. She didn't look happy when Robbie came to ask her to talk, but I'm glad that he was nice to her and encouraging her about what she's doing with her videos and how good it is. He could have said he was sorry for being a dick, but I guess in Robbie's way, his compliment was his way of saying he was sorry.
Yeah.
And I think it was great for them to have her ask Robbie his thoughts on what he thinks about her going into emergency psychology. And I love it when he first names people, because that's when you know Robbie's serious. But he's like, I think you can be anything you put your mind to, Victoria. And I love that because that is not something she ever hears from. Well, she probably hears it from her dad, but it's not.
But he's terrified of her mom. So at the end of the day, he's still going to tell her to do what your mom says.
Right, exactly. So I liked that moment between them, and it was another light bulb moment for Robbie. Like, okay, I do love these people, and these people do need me. And then Whitaker gets Robbie's info, and it looks like Robbie has enlisted Whitaker to follow up with Duke. And it was sweet when he tells Whitaker that he trusts him. I didn't care for Robbie's non-answer on when he'll be back, but man. first, I want to say a reminder to everyone that I called it in season 1 that Whitaker was going to end up with this farm lady. But I also talked some shit that I wasn't crazy about him helping her when it was brought up in the earlier this season by Santos, because they made it look like Whitaker was unhappy. But that boy looked happy with that baby, hopping in the driver's seat, putting on his playlist. He looks like he's doing well. So I'm here for this if he is as happy as it looked like he was. And then I appreciated the look of joy and pride on Robbie's face as Whitaker pulled away.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that storyline at all. Because on the one hand, it could be that Whitaker is totally happy and he's not being taken advantage of, and he's not, what's the word I'm looking for, diverting his stress into this situation where he's got survivor's guilt and he's having a relationship with a patient that probably isn't appropriate or healthy. But I don't know. I really don't know where they're going with this. Like, on the one hand, if this were a real world scenario, I think there would be a lot of red flags about having that kind of relationship with a former patient's wife and baby. And I don't know that it's clear that he's with her, but it definitely seems like they're definitely close. I mean, that lady didn't even, like, she moved over into the passenger seat and he was driving her truck. The baby had like a playlist and everybody. So he seems very embedded with this family. I'm just not sure where they're going with it. I guess hopefully we'll get to see more of that next season.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope Whitaker's with us for many years to come as the show continues to go on. He just looked happy, and I'm glad that he had a smile on his face when he was driving away. I wanted to see that for Whitaker because he's had own share of shit this season, but he was one of the most mentally sound this entire season. So seeing him drive away happy, like I said, if he's happy, I'm here for this storyline to continue on as it is. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, just next up, quick couple of notes on Dana. She's found someone who is on their way to relieve her. Good for her. And then also good for her getting on the asses of those detectives to take the rape kits. Go, Dana.
Unfortunately, those fucking kits, they're going to go and sit in a processing center somewhere. That whole storyline pisses me off, as it should. It should piss all of us off.
Yep, it is. But I'm, again, still one of the strongest story arcs of the season, man.
I love her. And I'm going to take a moment here to say I would have loved to have seen a whole lot more of Dana this season as well. Although, to be fair, Dana is one we actually did get quite a bit of time with comparatively. I would have liked to have seen more of her in this episode. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of her in the finale.
Yeah, I was okay with the balance with Dana this season. That is not one that I have much of a complaint about. Okay, next up, the beauty that these two bring, and that is Santos and Mel. So, LOL, Santos is worn the fuck out. She's pulling it off. Good makeup, good acting. It made me laugh when Abbott's hoorah after their little pre-shift chant, and he's like, "Did we wake you?" And she was like, "I was thinking." I wrote in my notes, that girl is sleep charting. Like she even when she kept talking,
was out.
Yeah, that was such good acting by Issa Briones. And then shift to Mel real quick. So she's continuing to struggle with Becca's new world. We get the phone call where Becca's spending the night at Adams, and they're, of course, watching Elf. And if you ask me, that right there should have been enough for Mel to be like, "Oh, this is good. I don't have to watch Elf ever again." But I thought it was cute when she says that Adam's parents need to ask her first before she spends the night. And she's like, "Are you staying here too?" And then we get that nice final moment between Mel and Langdon. I just love those two together. They're usually very nice scenes. You know, Mel has finally started piecing together how together Becca really is. And I had two thoughts here, so you tell me what you think. One is that she's realized all her efforts for Becca, sacrificing her own personal opportunities that they've alluded to all season, have paid off, and she's sad not to be needed like she was before, but also proud, like, yeah, I did that and helped my sister? Or is it more that she's disappointed she didn't see that because she was hovering, that Becca didn't see her potential, or that she didn't see Becca's potential because she's just been hovering because it's all she's ever known?
I think it's bittersweet for her. Both of those things. I think that on the one hand, she's had to process that she doesn't really have a life outside of Becca. And I think that panicked her for a bit, but I think she's also now seeing that that means that she is free now to create a life outside of Becca. So I
Yeah.
think she's feeling both of those things right now, like sadness and probably some panic, but also look, just a glimmer there at the end. You could see that she was starting to get a glimmer of the possibilities if Becca's okay, that she doesn't have to be hyper vigilant about her anymore and that she could create her own life.
Which I'm here for, man. Give me more of this in season 2. Her excitement with Langdon and his impressive spinal procedure. And I like how she boosts him up when he mentions that he could have paralyzed the guy. And she's just her simple, yeah, but you didn't. And then he thanks her for talking him down earlier and apologizes for his snappy behavior. And I put #progress. And then she gets the great news that she has to do another freaking deposition. I don't know if it was, they say a lot isn't improvised in this show, but I am convinced, or just choosing to believe, that Taylor's choice at that little teen-esque pout that she does when Robbie and the attorney call her over was chef's kiss acting. And I just want to believe she chose to do that on her own. That was so cute. I think this was another great showing of how Robbie seems to be seeing the importance of how these people are. You know, he helps the attorney understand, you know, Mel is sensitive, and because she's like, well, she's going to have to do this again. And Robbie's like, I'd like to be there with you when you tell her. He's another small low watt light bulb moment, I think. And then I love how they brought Santos and Mel together for the greatest moment of the season. I thought it was hilarious when Mel is sitting there pouting and Santos stops charting and asks, what's wrong, malfeasance? I had to Google malfeasance, though. I don't really get why she called her that. I didn't really understand the joke.
Because of the lawsuit.
Oh my God. How did I not get that?
I love her nicknames. I know that's not a popular opinion, but she cracks me up. Sometimes they're really shitty and assholey, but sometimes they're pretty funny. It was a play on her name, but that's why I think she said it.
Oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. That's funny. And then Santos is like, fuck this, let's go drink. I love her primal scream therapy. And this interaction was hilarious because it was funny at her slight shock that Mel doesn't go out, because Mel says like, well, I'm always with Becca. And Santos is like, well, she can come too. And then she's like, wait, can she drive? She's like, designated driver.
She was trying to get a designated driver. I love that.
And then deciding, Mel's like, yeah, she could use a fun night out. And then I was really pissed off that we weren't going to get to see this, but then my second wish of the episode came true. And I wrote here, any disappointments I had about the episode after the first watch disappeared when Santos and Mel showed up belting out You Oughta Know by the great Alanis Morissette. Was priceless.
When she did the line, did she go down on you in a theater? And Mel was bobbing her head like a chicken.
And then forgetting the words, and they're really bad dancing.
And Issa Briones, a beautiful Broadway singer, trying to pretend that she can't sing, like chef's kiss. That was we agree about that for sure. This was the best scene of the whole season.
So good. All right, anything else there?
No, it was a great way to go out.
It was. It really, really was. And I kind of like them sneaking it in like a Marvel or DC comic where it's like in the middle of the credits.
Yeah.
I loved it. Oh, so good. All right, final note. I wrote, fuck the bell, let's party.
Another great moment with Santos this season.
Yes. She's like, fuck this, and tosses the bell after everybody's ringing it.
It was funny.
And oh my God, My second favorite moment of the episode was Digby.
That was adorable.
This also saved this episode for me after first watch. I was not expecting that. I hate that he's back out on the streets and isn't going to get the full care that he needs. But it was so beautiful seeing him so happy. He was happy. This is his happy place, is out in these streets. And it makes me sad for him, but it also made me, I've seen some chatter online that people were like making fun of him. I don't feel like that's what they were doing. I feel like they were showing the side, especially with someone with bipolar disorder, when they're off their medications, how much better they feel about life.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's showing the reality of unhoused person situation. But he looks so happy. And then as they slowly pan down his little polo shirt, and then there's Whitaker's badge, and then
the dummy.
they keep going, and there's the dummy. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was making fun of him. That is the reality. There are a lot of people that have the mental illnesses that he has. That's why the unhoused situation in this world will never be completely quote unquote cured, because some people are unhoused because their mental illness makes them deeply uncomfortable with routine and staying in one place.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily a tragic outcome. I mean, now that's why we need places like the Pitt where people like that can go for dignity and healthcare. Because just because they have a mental illness doesn't mean they don't deserve those things.
Yeah, I thought it was beautiful. It sounds weird, but I really love.
No, I thought it was a great, hopeful moment. I guess that's when I mentioned earlier this season how much I fear and have kind of a phobia of schizophrenia. I felt kind of bad about that. And you'll remember, like an episode later, I kind of tried to clarify. And it is hard to explain because, on the one hand, it's not something I would ever wish for me or myself or anyone else because it is so hard. But I also know that there are a lot of people that are living with those disorders that live very happy life. Like, not every moment is happy, but they have quality of life and have value and dignity, and they have things every day that make them happy. And I like how they did this storyline, because the reality is, just because he's unhoused doesn't mean there is no joy in his life or dignity in his life or value in his life, and that he can't have a life of meaning. It's just not gonna look the way that you or I might feel like a life worth living looks, but it is his reality. And it doesn't mean that we should think less of him or look down on him or act as if those people don't deserve the basics of healthcare and hygiene when we can get it for them. That's what we should be doing as a society.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then last note, I got my third wish of the episode. We see mostly ladies on the roof. And then I put in parentheses, apparently Dr. Mark Green made an appearance too. Did you notice that guy standing behind them looked just like Mark Green? I was like, I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Yeah, somebody else online, at least one other person, because that's how I didn't catch it until I saw that in a meme somewhere.
I loved it. But this was interesting to me because what we were hoping would have been really like a joyful end of shift, let's watch the fireworks moment. But all I saw with all of these ladies was pain, stress, and love for each other and exhaustion on the roof. You've got Javati holding on to McKay, but what gutted me was Perla. There was the flinch as the explosions went off and the sadness showing in her face. Dana clocks it and jumps in to hold her. I feel like Perla was fighting through triggers from the sounds of the explosions and things like that. But I also think, because she was there when Louis was talking about his love of fireworks and how he couldn't wait to see the fireworks later. I think maybe part of that was also for Louis. But I think that was a beautiful contrast in showing during this celebratory day, this celebratory moment, and this beautiful setting of these fireworks over this beautiful city, that the people standing there watching it, I think I said it earlier, fireworks can mean different things to different people. When we had the lady come in with the leg burn, thought it was powerful to show that, what's the word? The difference?
The
Contrast in the moment and what people are feeling in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like the American healthcare system, quite frankly. Most of them were exhausted. You look at Mohan. Mohan was feeling a little bit of relief, seemingly probably because she's decided to get up out of that madhouse and go somewhere a little bit healthier for her. And she's got some clarity for her future. So it makes sense that she looks a bit more hopeful. But McKay, Javadi, everybody else just looked completely dead inside. And then you've got Perla, who I feel like most of Perla's expression, I think some of it maybe had to do with Louis, but I think a lot of it had to do with the ICE storyline. And if you notice throughout the entire season, periodically, Perla was a touching stone for some things, a variety of different things. One, I think that kind of slipped through the radar that we didn't even talk about a whole lot when it happened. When Joy Kwan grabbed her arm when they were in that procedure without even asking her to look at her watch.
Yeah.
The indignity of being a nurse and how, people feel free to do things like that to you on the regular. Having to watch Jesse get arrested by ICE. You could just tell that particular storyline was really affecting Perla throughout this season in a way that it maybe, wasn't other people, or at least we weren't clocking it with other characters. She was kind of a bellwether for that. And I felt that's what she was predominantly expressing in that moment when she was looking at the fireworks, like love of her country, but fear for where we're at.
Yeah, I like it.
And then this is, again, a moment I'm going to point out. These are the kind of, I would have liked to have seen a lot more of that. I would have liked to have had more Perla this season.
All right. Well, that's all I got. So let's move into final thoughts. Yay or nay? This is a yay for me. And what I wrote down after finishing my notes is, first watch, I was disappointed. Second watch, I remembered the point of the show is to show us a real as possible depiction of regular days at emergency department, and I appreciated it more. It really was emotional and uplifting, and though we don't necessarily get a lot of closure, that's okay, as it could add to more season 3's content. The two things that really saved this episode for me was Digby and his new friend, and Melon Santos belting out the women's anthem of the 90s. Brilliant. I give this 4.5 fake Mark Greens on the roof out of 5.
Well, it's a yay for me. I'm not going to say it's a nay, because overall, this show is so much better than the average television series. Than it's comical. The worst episode of this entire season was some of the best TV that I've watched in years. So I absolutely loved this ride this season. There were a lot of things that I really enjoyed. I'm so glad that we're going to get at least one more season. And I got to think there's going to be many more after that, because the writers, the concept, all of this are phenomenal. I just really am disappointed in that at the end of the day, so much of the oxygen in this storyline was yet again taken up with one doctor and their mental health journey, because I feel like that was a lot of last season. So it felt kind of redundant. My biggest complaint is we didn't get enough time with some of the characters that I've really, really, really wanted to see more of this season. Specifically, McKay. I really feel like she was wasted this entire season. We didn't get nearly enough of her. I know that they've given us some hint that we're going to get some direction, some closure on what happens with Mohan, but I'm disappointed that most of her season was just her dodging phone calls from her mom and looking stressed out. There were so many touching moments that she had with patients last season, and we got a little of this season, but not enough. And Dana, I think out of all of them, she had a better story arc. There were some amazing scenes. There were some really, her work with the sexual assault survivor and her partnering with sweet little, what was her name? The nurse?
Emma,
sweet little Emma. That was great. I'm glad she came back. There were some Emmy-worthy performances that Catherine Lanasa had in some of these episodes. But I wish that we had had a bit more of her in the finale. We just didn't get enough of Santos. Basically, all you saw of Santos this season was unpleasant. which, took away from some of the depth that we got out of her from last season. So just at the end of the day, I hope that my wish list for next season is that we get some expanded storylines with some of these other incredible doctors and maybe just a little bit less Robbie. So I'm going to give it 3.75
Wow.
badly swaddled babies out of 5.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
For a season, 4.75 stolen CPR dummies.
I'm going to save mine for the special episode.
Okay.
Digby and his friend. I want a book. There should be a children's book.
Digby and Friends.
Yes. I want it.
Yeah, I hate that we had to let go of Louis, but I'm glad that we got Digby.
Yes.
I miss
Well done,
Myrna.
Charles Baker.
Let's hope Myrna's back next season.
It's time. I feel like it's time for Myrna to cycle back through.
Yeah, Jeanette O'Connor, you need to put them leather hot pants back on. We need Myrna back in the ED.
Reals.
Yeah.
All right. The procedure of the week for me, no brainer. The C-section.
It's the C-section all day long.
Stethoscope, which I did not spell correctly in our notes. Good Lord. Stethoscope drop moment. I already said mine. Langdon talking to Robbie.
I agree. Same one. The only thing that might even be second to that was when Robbie asked that woman, if you don't believe in healthcare, what are you doing here?
Yes, that would have been a good one. Why did you come here?
Yeah, but I think that Langdon finally telling Robbie, I've seen a bunch of guys like you in rehab and you need to get help it was a pretty great moment.
Misdiagnosis. My big misdiagnosis is Mohan did not end up jumping off the roof, which is great. I said I felt something was going to happen to a character on the show that did not in fact happen. So I was very, very wrong about that.
I think there were a lot of things that I was misdirected about, but maybe, I don't know. I started the last couple of episodes to see where they were going with a lot of it. And I wasn't really surprised that we didn't get any hard and fast wrap ups to a lot of the stuff. The lady that came in that with the heat exhaustion, we don't really know how that's going to play out. We don't know exactly where Baby Jane Doe is going to end up and may never find out, some of that stuff. I'm not surprised by that. But I imagine there were a lot of things that we were going one direction and we ended up with another. I kind of thought we would get more of a resolution between Santos and Langdon than we did this season, but I'm also not really surprised we didn't.
Yeah, there's so many things that I wanted to see that we didn't see. And I'm disappointed just from a viewer standpoint, but I also get it because I got to keep reminding myself this is just a regular day for these people.
Right.
This is not meant to be it's meant to be entertaining, but it's not meant to be a drama.
Yeah, the predominant thrust is supposed to be that's just a normal day. And I don't have really a problem with that. That again was one of the reasons I found that scene with Robbie confessing that he was abandoned kind of clunky. I felt like it didn't really jibe with that version of the show. But I'm not even really disappointed that we didn't get a huge bow wrapped up on a lot of that stuff. I'm totally fine with that.
Right. So what we know for sure about season 3, you want to start?
Yeah. How do we know this? Have you seen articles about it?
I have not read the full article because I didn't have time, but these 4 points have been confirmed via interviews with showrunners or Noah Wyle himself.
Okay. So what we know is that Robbie is going to take the sabbatical and the show will pick up in November, about 4 months down the road. So it'll be about a 4-month time jump. The show's going to air in January 2027 and production is going to start in June.
I'm glad they're keeping with the same airing schedule.
Yeah.
As they have.
It makes our life easier.
It sure does. So next up, we know Mohan will not be back, but her exit will be explained in season 3. I'm assuming it'll be very much like what we got with Dr. Collins's exit after season 1.
Yeah.
And according to showrunners, the story will follow the aftermath of Robbie's trip and the theme of doctors benefiting from being patients.
Intriguing.
Very intriguing.
Do you remember Rick Mosher that we used to work with
Yeah.
at Charlie's? I had to, so when you remember, he had seizure disorder, and I had to drive him. Yeah, I had to drive him to work for like 6 months at one point, because periodically when he would have a massive seizure, he would have to lose his license for a while. So I don't love how it played out this season, but I'm really hoping we're learning a lot more about her neurological condition next season and how that impacts her practice.
And her family life. I mean, she's got a kid.
All of it. Yeah. I'm really excited. I want to see more of Dr. Al and that storyline play out. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, we got a lot of feedback on this episode, so let's just get right to it. Via email, Ellen. Hi, Ellen.
Hey, girl.
Ellen says, greeting, ladies. Well, the finale. Can't believe the whole season is over. I'll start with a couple of disappointments so that I can end on a more positive note. I really did not like Mohan's exit story. Girl, me and you both. It seemed unplanned, rushed, and incomplete. I don't think that they did the character due justice at all. I also feel a little uneasy about something more concrete about Santos' self-harm story not being present in the finale. Thank you. I just, like layering in clues about these characters that we don't wrap up, I don't have a problem with. But again, I feel like that if that were going to be introduced into the storyline, I really wish that we would have had a little bit more time addressing that. That's Mandy, by the way, inserting her opinion there. Going back to Ellen. She says, I think her hanging out with Mel and knowing she shouldn't be alone addressed it in a much more abstract way.
That's what as you were talking, I was like, that's why I'm not upset, because
I agree.
We see the resolve. We don't need it explained to us.
See, I don't agree, because I think that was part of it. But again, that is such a serious thing. And we just spent so much time on Robbie's shit. I just wish we'd gotten more of that. But I think it's such an important mental health issue, so for it to be largely dropped after she pocketed the scalpel was a little disappointing for me. That issue can't be resolved in a day, but I think it should have been addressed directly at least one more time. That's what I'm saying, Ellen. Now for the positives, because there were more of those for sure. She says, I was a little 50-50 on how I feel about Whitaker and the farm lady as a story at first. However, I did enjoy watching Whitaker look totally comfortable in his role in that relationship, whatever it is.
Oh my God, Ellen, same brain.
He seemed quite at ease and happy to drive off into the sunset. Well, the dark night, lit up by fireworks, with Amy and the baby. Not sure if they'll continue that story in the season 3, but it was kind of sweet in the end when you take how they met with a shocked face emoji. Yeah, that's my concern. On the surface, if this storyline just ends up, this is perfectly healthy for him, that's awesome. Whitaker deserves it, and he is definitely more mentally healthy than a lot of these folks. But my concern is that this is all just going to end up being him just survivor's guilt. But I think this show's giving me PTSD, so maybe I'm just I'm catastrophizing like Robbie.
I think so.
Back to Ellen's feedback. She says, Dana, with an exclamation point. Loved her getting to speak her mind once again to law enforcement about how shitty it was for those rape kids to be ignored. Yep. I was kind of happy that she didn't have yet another discussion with Robbie and kind of let someone who she knew would get through to him take the reins. Dr. Abbott and Robbie have that camaraderie and relationship that finally it seemed like someone got through to Robbie. Also, I loved Langdon going to check up on his patient, and I love that he got to tell Robbie his point of view. I think that the audience has treated Langdon's recovery like it's a one and done and he's fine now, and I've bristled at that, but I think the show's handled it in a way that makes it clear it is an ongoing process.
Yes.
Like Becky pointing out that he clearly wasn't even sober for the first 4 months of his sabbatical. But Langdon has started strong in his recovery process, and he is on a good path. The part about the felony drug theft and was maybe left alone for now. And I guess I have mixed reactions to that, but narratively it works in the sense that Langdon is at least on a path to recovery. Other things might come up along the way, but for now he seems pretty firmly in a good place. Oh, I did notice he said he was sober for 186 days. Oh, Ellen caught it too. That's about 6 months. Yeah. He's been gone 10. Did he relapse in his first 4 months?
That's what I want to know.
Right. Did he not start recovery right away? Some people have said that benzos require tapering and not stopping cold turkey, but I just thought it was interesting that he would specify the amount of days he was sober and have it be well short of 10 months.
Same freaking brain.
Robbie and his story have been kind of uneven for me. Overall, I'm empathetic to someone struggling with mental health issues. I get the sense that from interviews, it seems Noah Wiley didn't really think his behavior would come across as misogynistic as a lot of the audience found it to be. I found that made it a little more interesting and complex and thought-provoking for me watching things play out. I agree, Ellen. Robbie, to me, seems very obviously a bit misogynistic, but that also doesn't distract from the storyline to me because I think that tracks, especially if we find out that he's got mommy issues.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Robbie holding the baby at the end and consoling the baby was him consoling himself. Yes, agreed. I took that as he's starting on his first steps to healing. So did Becky.
Oh my gosh.
At least in the moment. I have read in post-show interviews that next season Robbie hits rock bottom. Oh my fucking gosh.
No, that's, oh my God, read her next sentence.
I don't want to think about more bottoming out after this season. But like substance recovery, healing is not a one and done linear path by any means. Oh,
I don't want to
Jesus.
see him bottom out. I don't mind seeing him grow going through the recovery process, but I think Robbie's hit bottom enough that it's time for all that we need to see is him building himself back up.
Robbie has jumped like he's got the Acme anvil tied to his leg and pulled him down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and bounced on his face 14 times and come back down again. I'm tired, boss.
He is the coyote.
Yes. I'm tired of seeing Robbie and his struggles. Please let it be about something else. Anyway, all right, back to Ellen. Dr. Allen Robbie showdown. I have mixed feelings. I get his concern, of course, but his delivery sucked, as usual, and his hypocrisy peeked through. And as much as he thinks she isn't fit to run the ED, he hasn't been exactly lighting up the leadership role lately either. Thank you. From Dr. Al's perspective, she's medically cleared to work with a second attending. I think she mistakenly thought Robbie would understand based on her medical clearance, and it blew up in her face. I'm interested to see how this is approached next season. I see both POVs. I like the ladies of the pit getting together and watching the fireworks on the roof. The hug between Perla and Dana made me tear up pretty badly. I feel like Perla was thinking about Louis and how he loved the fireworks. I'm sure there was more to it, but that's what stood out to me the most. McKay didn't have much going on in the finale, but it was nice to see her hanging with the other residents, chatting and on the roof. She has a sweet way with Javati. I enjoyed Javati figuring out what she wants to do via a friendly, sweet chat with Whitaker. Was a really nice way to wrap up Javati's season. Poor Mel, not done with deposition yet and watching Becca find her groove apart from her. Ouch. Mel will pull through with a little help from some new friends, though, like Santos, for instance. Finally, Santos. There were so many cockamamie theories out there that Santos stole the Whitaker's badge to frame Langdon. Santos had one of the worst days of her career. It started with misdiagnosing a 9-year-old girl that she thought was being abused, watching Whitaker catch a diagnosis she missed, getting threatened with repeating her R2 year over charting, worrying her roomie might leave, revealing self-harm scars, getting dumped by her situationship, and the return of Langdon, and still people wanted Santos to have more comeuppance. She is prickly and inconsistent with empathy for patients, but acting like she doesn't suffer for her shortcomings. I don't get how her haters don't see narratively that she suffers a lot. Even after all that trauma, she extended an invite to Mel, who she saw was having a shit day too. The kindness from Santos after a horrendous day shows that people who hate on her are just not looking for the whole picture. The Mel and Santos karaoke scene was probably one of my favorites of the entire series. Same. Probably my very favorite. Unlikely pals who are helping themselves and each other with a night out. I'd love to see a real friendship develop there. Santos throwing the bell away after charting made me LOL. Yeah, us too. A night shift chant and Shin and Ellis shenanigans also provided some levity after a heavy-duty season. Although I liked season 1 more, overall I thought season 2 was fabulous too. It ended on a note that makes me want to come back for next season and hopefully get to discuss with y'all again! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Lots of love. 3 heart emojis to y'all. Aw, thanks, Ellen.
Lots of love to you too, Ellen, and great feedback. We are of the same mind on most of this episode. That was really great feedback. And Ellen will be back very soon, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. Next up, we get Meet Virginia's thoughts on the finale. Hi, Becky and Mandy. After all, nothing big, in quotation marks, she says big happened, but oh, what a wonderful hour it was. I think by the end, everyone had their shot to get through to Robbie, with the most persistent being Abbott, and then finally Langdon finding the courage and self-esteem to be able to tell Robbie in the most direct way what he must do to save himself. We had all thought that Langdon's previous exchange with Whitaker would give Whitaker the courage to stand up to Santos, but in fact, it made Langdon realize that he needed to stand up for himself. Confront Robbie about his behavior towards him and tell Robbie what he needs to do to save his own life. I found that scene so satisfying. I'm pausing here. Holy shit, Virginia. I didn't even think about it from that perspective, and I think you're right.
We talked about this last episode. Because I said that I think that Langdon sees when Whitaker told him that he realized that he's been letting Robbie do that to him.
Oh, well, I've slept since then. So I completely missed that. But either way, good pickup, Virginia. That's funny. Virginia goes on to say, I'm gutted by Robbie's treatment of Al Hashimi, especially after she finally felt she could trust him with her secret. I'm worried about her driving home in that state. I'm not sure that she is. Finally, the karaoke scene was delicious. Seeing Mel literally letting her hair down, allowing herself to feel free of her burdens, and just screaming it all out in absolute ecstasy to Alanis Morissette. It was everything. Thank you for your amazing discussions. They mean a lot to me. Oh, thank you, Virginia. And you and your amazing feedback mean a lot to us. We're so glad that you found us this season.
All right. Our friend Penny says, hi, what's on tonight? Phenomenal season and finale. I've seen a lot of chatter online of people disappointed that there wasn't a big dramatic event in season 2 like Pitt Fest in season 1. Some have complained that the season was quote unquote slow. I couldn't disagree more. The show is doing something very intentional in exploring trauma. Season 1 introduced us to this world and the characters and showed us how big dramatic events can cause trauma. Season 2 showed us how trauma lingers, how it's with you every single day and all the things you do, how it colors your perceptions and alters your relationships. Early in the season, the sexual assault survivor's story departed from the usual way these stories are handled by shifting focus from the attack to the impact. The show as a whole did the same thing. Yeah. We saw over and over this season how the grind of the ED is having lasting effects on the staff. What makes the characters in the pit heroic is not how they respond in a big moment of crisis. It's how they come back day after day for years to help in whatever way they can, despite losing patience and losing patience. Patience. Ooh, Penny, I love what you did there.
That's so good.
As a trauma survivor, I've never felt so seen and represented. Keep slaying, Penny.
That was great, Penny. I like that overview of the season as a whole. And I really do want, I didn't get to do it last season, but I really do want to take the time this season to go back while this season is still fresh and watch it as close, like 5 episodes at a time, maybe to as close together as I can to see it from the bigger picture instead of how it trickled out. I like that. And also, Penny, I don't know if I ever told you, but when my alarm on my phone goes off in the morning, it says time to slay. And via our What's On Tonight Facebook page, Linda, hey girl, hey, says the finale was perfect. Many people got through to Dr. Robbie. You could see it in his eyes, but nobody got to hit through him more than baby Jane Doe. I know, I did not have that on my bingo card. He was telling her that everything is going to be all right while he's telling himself that. The show is about hope. I was actually able to sleep last night after watching it. I love the scene with Digby. He looked great wearing Whitaker's badge and pushing the mannequin in the wheelchair. Last season we had Myrna, and this season we had Digby. You ladies had the pleasure of interviewing both of them, heart emoji, and we did, and it was so exciting. And she goes on to say, and the icing on the cake was Santos and King singing karaoke. I loved it with the heart emoji. Same, Linda.
Linda, I'm going to miss you the most while we're waiting for the pit to come back. You need to catch, I think you've listened to some of our interviews, but we're going to be re-releasing those. We're going to get into that here in a bit. And those were two of the ones you mentioned were 2 of my favorites. All right, Ginger.
The movie star
Says, oh man, Robbie killed me dead with those silently rolling tears at the end. It came full circle in the pediatric room. Last season, it was a place of pain, and this season, it was a place where healing begins. What a beautiful show. I smell all the awards coming for a second year in a row. Thank you, Becky and Mandy, for being our guides on this after-show journey. Aw, thanks, Ginger. For the final time this season, I give this episode 5 out of 5 Nightcrawler team huddles.
I love that.
Love it. She has a heart emoji and says, P.S. Please, oh, please let there be a night shift spinoff. Man, yes. I would love to see that. Cool. Yeah.
And via the Pitt Forever Fans Facebook page, Doug Foucher says, first of all, I love the show, the cast, the acting, the writing, the attention to detail with continuity. So much going on at all times. The show feels like it takes 15 minutes long. Sometimes it does. You're like, crap, that was an hour. He says the problem with continuity is at the finale. I felt it was a huge build-up for an anticlimactic end with a lot of unresolved issues. You can hear through our conversation, we agree with a lot of that.
Yeah, I think Becky talking about watching it. I think that if it were the kind of series where they dropped all the episodes at once and you binged it, it may be a different experience. But because of the way that it is rolled out, I feel like that created some of that lack of loss of tension and momentum there at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We've got a voicemail from Sam.
Ladies, I'm not ready. The pit is over for this year. I'm not ready. Oh, I hope they come back in January again. It's such a good show. I, from seeing online, I think a lot of people were a little divided on how Robbie's storyline ended. I can understand it, at least as much as I can. But, like, the person in me wanted more drama. And Mandy, you were right. They didn't go for the drama aspect of it. The clinician in me kind of sat with the finale and went, it's very accurate, which is what the show has always strived to be. Like, yes, there's going to be drama, but they also want to do like an accurate representation of what it's like in healthcare. And this is pretty accurate for Robbie's storyline. If anything, it's on the more hopeful end. Yeah, like mental health and suicidal ideation like that's not going to be wrapped up in 15 hours just because people start saying they're worried. And even acknowledging that you need help and all of this stuff, it's not that simple. And so there's something super powerful about not giving the audience a lot of closure on it. I mean, they gave us some hope, which is, you don't even usually get that in the real world, so that's a little bit of Hollywood magic. They gave us some hope and also let us know, like, this isn't over because this is how mental health is. This is how suicidal thoughts are. And so I think they did an absolutely beautiful job with such a tough storyline. And I think it's the most accurate one I've seen in a very long time about people going through these issues and trying their best to cope with it. And I like that they sent out a message to healthcare workers. I mean, that's what I took away from it. Robbie has some hope, and he's saying to, like, baby Jane Doe, of just saying, you have so much more in your life, so much more to see, so many more people to love. And that was like a little message to everyone in healthcare who is struggling with issues similar to Robbie, or any viewer. So I thought that was really beautiful and pretty powerful, and such a risk to take. But for me, it works. I'm happy. And just the closing of it all was so poignant and so sad. Just all the women from the day shift, most of the women, not all of them, just grieving the day, the patients, Louis, I showing up in the hospital, Jesse's still gone, just like all of the sadness of the day. And here they are supposed to be celebrating, America, and they're just grieving. And it's fair because they're at the front lines. They're gonna see how politics and those choices up high are affecting and killing innocent people, and they're helpless to stop a lot of it. So I just thought that was beautiful. And someone pointed out online that Louis really wanted to see the fireworks. I was like, oh, Perla. Also, where's Princess? like I'm a little concerned. So I just thought that they did such a beautiful job and took a lot of risks to have these quiet moments. I'm glad Langdon finally had it out with Robbie. I want him to have it out with Santos again, or let her have it out on him. So hopefully that will come up in the next season. And Dr. Al Hashimi broke my heart. I mean, Perla broke my heart, and then Dr. Al Hashimi broke my heart. I mean, clearly Robbie is just still back on his bullshit. Like, technically he's not wrong, and neither is she. So, like, he clearly is ignoring his mental health issues, and because of that, he's just taking this blind eye towards disabilities. And just, like, it's not how you work with someone with disabilities. She is a very efficient doctor. And yes, you want to build in some safeguards and stuff, which is what she was doing. And it's just very frustrating. Rather than saying, like, I'm going to turn you in, being like, let's formulate a plan. And that's what I took her telling Robbie about, was like, I need to figure out a plan for this. I don't know. And so, like, him just, it's just frustrating. She has no control over her disability, and she's an excellent doctor. I can't believe I'm saying it at the end of the season, that she is just wonderful addition to the pit. And I was just so heartbroken for her. What do you ladies have for predictions for season 3? What do you think's going to happen?
I am not going to answer that yet until we get into our recap discussion, but I have some thoughts.
I literally have none. I don't know what they're going to do other than what they've stated. I really don't know. I have a wish, and that's that we could decenter Robbie a bit from the next season and perhaps put some more of the spotlight on some of these amazing actors that they have in their cast, because their cast is just ridiculously stacked. And I'd like to see more of that. All right, guys. The feedback has been amazing this season. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing from you each week. It adds so much to our conversations, and we appreciate you guys so, so much.
And if you would like to get in touch with us, leave some feedback or just say hello, you can send us a voice message as an attachment to What's On Tonight and the number 2 at gmail.com.
You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comments section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's On Tonight Podcast and the number 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a review, comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
So let's say we climb the roof and watch fireworks with fake Dr. Green. I love Dr. Green, and it was so nice to just for a second think I saw him on my TV again.
Oh, that's very sweet. I don't really have anything, man. No TV, no podcast recommendations, nothing.
I'm going to out Mandy because she's obviously not going to do it. She broke down and watched the finale of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes, I did. And I didn't even want to talk about it because I don't want to give it more air. RuPaul, we're going to have words if I ever see you again. It was 3 fine contestants. None of them should have been in the finale. And definitely the winner did not deserve to win. But whatever. I didn't want to bring everybody down. I don't really have anything else. Eric and I got this piece of furniture we're opening our pool. I love being outside when the weather is nice. And we got like one of those big loungers we got from Amazon. And we spent 4.5 hours putting it together yesterday, only to realize it's one of those big round ones that's got like a canopy over it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, except that the company, first of all, like there were whole parts of the directions that they left out. The parts that they told us to use were the wrong parts in certain areas. We got through all that, still got it together, most of it put together, and realized that the part that's like the hydraulic that you put on each side that keeps the canopy up, totally broken. So, yeah, I'm going to be battling what we're going to do about that for the rest of my Sunday afternoon. But yeah, I've just been spending time outside getting my yard ready. So I really haven't watched a lot of TV or listened to podcasts this week.
Well, for me, podcast recommendations, I mentioned last week in our last episode that The Testaments is out, which is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. Wendy and Daphne are covering it over on the Handmaid's Tale podcast, The Testaments. You can find them on Spotify and on Facebook. I highly recommend you check out their discussion on the show. And for TV recommendations, Kristen Wiig is back as our favorite Delacourt on Palm Royale, season 2 on Apple TV. Oh, so good. Check it out.
Well, guys, that wraps up our coverage of the season 2 finale of The Pit. It all went by so fast. We're going to be back soon with special guests, Justin and Ellen, to recap the show and to give the second annual Pit Awards.
I'm so excited.
Be on the lookout for posts to vote for the show's top people and moments. And we're going to do a break once we do our rewatch and award episodes. Becky promises our interview with Leslie Boone, who played death doula / nighttime charge nurse Lena. That's going to be out soon. She was awesome, guys. She's such a smart, funny lady. You're going to love that interview. Through the next couple months, we're going to repost a lot of our past interviews with cast and crew so that if you can either revisit those or check them out for the first time if you didn't get a chance to listen when we initially dropped those. They are awesome. If you haven't had a chance to listen, please check them out. We're also going to keep working on the off season to get more people from the show on for interviews. And we cannot wait to be back with y'all for season 3 of The Pit when it returns.
And we are still actively looking at what we're going to cover next. We had some ideas, but life is just lifing right now. And so we're going to allow ourselves just a little bit of a mental health break before we dive into figuring out what we'll cover later this summer or in the fall before The Pit comes back. So in the meantime, we will get those interviews re-released, and I'll be re-releasing a lot of our season 1 coverage as well to get it over onto our What's On Tonight Spotify page, and then you'll also still be able to find them on YouTube, Pirate Core, and all that good stuff. So we will still have plenty of good content coming out for you guys. And we want to thank everyone so much for listening. We leave you with a quote from Marcel Proust. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes.
Ooh, hear that, Robbie?
That's why I picked this one. Mandy gets me. Oh, I'm Becky.
I'm Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.
Yay.